Hey, what's up guys? Jed here. Are you thinking of trying intermittent fasting but don't exactly know how to start? Then don't worry, because you're in the right place. In today's video, I'm going to be explaining how to do intermittent fasting in the easiest way possible without you having to waste time doing so much research, only to end up confusing yourself because of all the information that's out there. I understand that doing research about certain topics can be pretty boring and sometimes stressful, especially when it comes to losing weight. But don't worry, because I'm going to do my best to explain intermittent fasting in the simplest way. So if you're looking forward to that, make sure you stick around. So first, I just want to briefly explain what intermittent fasting is. So basically, intermittent fasting is just not eating for a certain period. Wow, dude, really? Text me later. I'm currently making a YouTube video. People always texting me when I'm in productions. So as I was saying, intermittent fasting is just not eating for a certain period of time. I like to imagine as though intermittent fasting was a person who was by my side 24/7 telling me when and when not to eat. It's not a specific diet, so that means you can eat whatever you want, just not how much you want. That's really all it is in short. So whenever you start intermittent fasting, the first thing you need to do is pick a schedule that works best for you. Generally, people do 16/8. I read somewhere that you can adjust the schedule however you like, as long as you don't do anything below 16 hours, otherwise it won't work. Or anything above 24 hours, otherwise that would be considered unhealthy. That's just something I read somewhere on Google, so don't take my word for it. I know a ton of people who have done 12 to 14 hours at the least and have still gotten results. But 16/8 is always recommended. I just use it as a base since for me personally, it seems logical, along with the fact that I've tried schedules that are below 16 hours, and from my experience, it didn't work for me. But for you, it could possibly be different. Anyway, the most common eating schedule that people go by is 16/8, just like I mentioned earlier, which is where you have an 8-hour eating window and a 16-hour fast. Why? Because there are 24 hours in a day, and so 16 plus 8 is 24. Another thing I wanted to add about the schedules is that it doesn't matter when you start. Like for example, if you were to do 16/8, some people prefer to start eating at 10 a.m. and then stop eating around 6 p.m., which in total is 8 hours. The time you decide to start eating and start fasting is totally up to you as long as you fast for 16 hours. So it could be 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. You get the idea. Some people say that it's better to push your breakfast further, which I agree. It does seem better, but think of it like this. You can push breakfast further, which is helpful, but if you're someone who still eats a lot, it's not really that helpful, so it really won't help you at all. The same thing can be said about the other schedules, such as 18/6, 19/5, or 24-hour fast. I hope I haven't lost you yet. Alright, so far we know that intermittent fasting is just eating at a specific time and then fasting for the remainder of your day, and that you need to choose a schedule. So what should you eat when intermittent fasting? Or excuse me, what can you eat when intermittent fasting? Honestly, you can eat whatever you want, but there is one thing you should follow when you're intermittent fasting, which is you need to be counting your calories and making sure that you are in a caloric deficit. As always, I will leave a link to an online calorie calculator down in the description so that you can figure out how many calories you need in order to lose weight. So make sure you're counting your calories. The next thing I want to mention is coffee and tea. Can you have it while intermittent fasting? Well, yes and no. Yes, as long as it has no sugar. But for me personally, no, and let me explain why. I used to drink coffee and tea regularly, but mostly coffee. I drank coffee every morning, mainly because I wanted to wake myself up, as well as give myself that boost of energy to get me throughout the day. I eventually used it alongside intermittent fasting as well. Here's the problem though. I started to rely too much on coffee, meaning that was the only way for me to wake up, as well as the only way for me to make it through a full day of intermittent fasting. So when you rely too much on something, like in this case, coffee, that means if you no longer have that certain something, guess what? You won't be able to do whatever it is that you've been doing anymore. So that's why I stopped drinking coffee. Although I still drink tea from time to time, but not for the same reasons as I did before, which leads me to my next point. You can still drink all these things as long as you do it in moderation, while still keeping control of what you're taking in. Another thing that really helps is changing your mindset. I've said it many times in past videos, and I'll say it again. Having a good mindset will help in the long run when it comes to weight loss, because you will always be the one in control. We can even use Mr. Coffee as an example. The point was that you rely too much on coffee, whereas if you relied more on your mindset, you're going to get twice the benefit than you would from coffee, plus the fact that it sticks with you forever. And it's free. And who doesn't like free, right? At the end of the day, whenever I hear the word fast, that means taking in nothing but water. Alright, so to summarize what we've talked about, if you want to start intermittent fasting, you need to pick a schedule first. Take a moment to think about what your daily routine looks like, pick a schedule, and then of course, adjust accordingly. What can you eat when intermittent fasting? Anything as long as you don't overeat. Do you need to count calories when intermittent fasting? Absolutely, because if you didn't count calories while intermittent fasting, it's not going to work. And of course, last but not least, you need to change your mindset. Once you have a more positive attitude towards your goals, you're going to reach them in no time. So there you have it, guys. That is intermittent fasting in a nutshell. I really hope you guys learned something. And I know sometimes the way intermittent fasting is introduced can sound complicated, but this is how I approached it, and I saw results just like that. I didn't even take all the science into consideration because it really isn't all that important in my opinion. I also did a 30-day intermittent fasting journey recently, so if you're curious about that, I will leave a link to a playlist in the description for you guys to watch and see the results that I got. Alright guys, if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and tap that notification bell so that you don't miss any future videos on intermittent fasting. Also, don't forget to leave a like and comment down below letting me know if you're thinking of starting intermittent fasting. And with that said, I will see you guys next time.